again, I didn't expect it to be here so soon, but this is just so weird. I was thinking about how to, first of all, the missing video. What I was looking at was these loop amplitudes. Hang on, I'll just try and get this thing. Sorry, I'm so trying to do it. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I just kind of, it's very late at night and I'm just trying to get this done before I can get to bed. So please excuse me. I'm a bit tired. Oh God, I don't want that. Where is the decent paintbrush? Will that do? That's looking dreadful. Oh, that's why I can see. Okay, so the idea is this, is we're looking at the fundamental loop amplitudes of the system. And now, I always like to try and, I don't know why, but it's just handy to not be able to draw anything at all. What about select all? Will that help? Oh, there we go. Okay, so what we've got is a Higgs here. And it decays into A, N, but that's its Gödel number, and A minus N. Now, the thing is what I'd been doing before was kind of getting the entangled particle up here, but we can just run it backwards. We can run them both forwards in time from here. Now, what I was thinking about was two things, actually. Two things at once. One simpler. I'll do the one that's the problem. I'll do the harder one first, actually. Because remember, we've got this as an operator, and that's the whole thing about this whole Langland setup. We can't do our inner product, so we're trying to compare an operator. So we have to we've got this V. Oh, it's just so difficult to denote all this stuff. All right, because everything is upside down and backwards and forwards. All right, first of all, let's imagine that we've got this situation here. This is a simpler one to imagine first, actually, rather than this one. This one is just so, it reveals something very important, or seems to. Because I've been looking at this case when you get this going around like that, and so it's traversing, then it reaches its maximum point there, and then starts contracting, going like this. And meanwhile, this one is going around there. So I'd been seeing this as a loop amplitude like this, and then with a counter-rotating loop amplitude like that. And somehow trying to see it like this. But there's the other way of seeing it is them both essentially moving forwards in time. Now, in this way, I'd been seeing that the energy for growth was coming from this way. And so it was kind of borrowing energy, this was the idea, off its own ghost, essentially, until it gets to here, and then it starts repaying, i.e. this is the death stage. And then it starts repaying, and that actually... So let's... Now, the problem was, all right, we've got to tunnel, we're not allowed to, first of all, we're trying to solve, all right, I'll take off all the Gödel numbers at the moment, but they're still relevant. H of f equals, say, let's just do v squared for the moment, of f, where, oh, sorry, I mean, equals v of f, where, where v squared equals either plus minus I. It's an operator. That's the thing. And the problem is what we're trying to do is evaluate, try and find an inner product for what would be the kind of renormalized Aronoff far field, near field correction. So we have to basically inner product these two things, but they're both, so we have to find the inner product of v of a minus n and v of oh no, we've got to be very careful now. We've got to do the Gödel numbers here, haven't we? Because this is we can't ignore them. V of n of a of n. So this is Alice's n quantum state. This is Alice's minus n quantum state. And this is negating all, the important thing is this is negating all the quantum degrees of freedom. So there are none left. That's the thing, we've got to somehow eliminate all n dependence in bulk. And so we've immediately got a tunneling problem, as you can see, because we're trying to do an inner product of two things where we've got an operator value, and the whole thing is we're breaking the loop. We're trying to get multiple times around this loop. So the thing is it's like this is a technical problem. That's what I'd seen, was this is a technical problem in computing. And I just assumed that it was hard, and it is. It's not. There might be a trick to it, but I found one trick anyway. To solve this explicitly, that's what I'm saying. I'm assuming it was just like I had my geometer's hat on, and I've had to take my geometer's hat off a bit now because this is pretty serious stuff. This is coding stuff now. This tunneling, immediate tunneling. So you're going to have to attack this monadically just from the very start. So it is. That's what the problem is. I'm putting my computer programmer's hat on now, and this is nasty. And it's going to take some effort to actually evaluate this thing, and because this is so important, because phi naught equals this, and we're trying to derive our isothermals from this, and so it's essentially the only part left, because everything is just so dependent on this key part of it, which is, as I said, this difficult monadic tunneling task. Or we might want to do it with coroutines. It's a choice. We might have to use both, you see, because we can use every string mode that we've got, basically. And so the step backwards was, well, what is this borrowing process and lending process? What this loaning process? Nothing's moving. It's just entanglement. I've put these arrows saying this thing is going around like that, but nothing's moving anywhere. It's an illusion of movement, because we're still essentially, even though we created this amazing geometry, we're still just a point. We're still just nothing. Yeah. So we can't, before we can even bootstrap the system beyond, zero-dimensional theory. Which has generated multiple weak universes. There's no doubt. Just running the Schrödinger equation will give you a dissipative universe of some type, and if it interferes with itself, we haven't got a proper coherent universe in any way. So to get Einstein's dream of a number theoretical, quantum number driven quantum mechanics, then we have to essentially solve this equation. And it's funny, it doesn't look anything like one of the equations that you would imagine would be a key to a problem, but in this case it just seems to be. And let me just check one moment, just to check that all the recording's working. Okay, so what I'd noticed, so this is a step back. And the step forward, there are 2 steps forward, that's the funny thing. So there's a little lemma number 1, is we can do this, because the thing is what we have got between A1, A minus n, and AN is these things are totally entangled. They're the same thing. Yeah, they're just 2 aspects of the same thing. And now what do we notice? We notice, because supersymmetry is now included in neg, in this bundled up quantum number, where I'm using minus here as neg, so I'm working in Gödel space now. So I'm just using one quantum number, no more. So this gets rid of all the indices. And that's the kind of nice thing of using the Gödel numbers. It's a like side effect. The notation actually becomes easier because we lose a lot of indices, or the quantum numbers, they just become one. And the thing is because they're essentially in the same place, that's what the entanglement is about, because nothing is really moving. It is just, we're essentially inducing a string theory on a zero-dimensional space. And this is the funny thing, this is what I was trying to talk about when I was ranting lunatic on Sabine's site about a zero-dimensional effective theory. This is, if we want to really generate gravity from nothing, that's what we've got to do. And so, and this does that, and you can see it because supersymmetry is now included in neg. That means that we've got bosons, fermions, and as the shamans would say, these are the Great Spirit expressed in one place. The matter. And this, well, what do we define them as? We just started to define them as isothermal geodesics. Now the thing is that, so what are isothermal? This is space-time. And what is this? This is matter. So what we see is actually, if we run them both forwards from this point, if we consider this the particle state here, then this minus n state is a space-time state. And so what we see is that this side of the chart is just uniformly positive energy. And this side is uniformly negative energy. And because they're fermionic partners, they can't take each other's states. So this one is just becoming increasingly negative. And so as it's becoming increasingly negative, it's creating the space for its superpartner, which is fermionic, to occupy. So now we've got, this is Alice playing space-time. And this is Alice playing Alice. And now we can see that essentially we can also get around the no signaling theorem, because we're doing these swaps. This means that these two things are actually in perfect communication all the time, because they're the same place. They've never really moved anyway. It's just the space-time coordinates evolving on a point, and we're kind of evolving all of them at the same time. And so there's no problem about communicating instantly because they've never moved. So all of this movement stuff is just an illusion caused by the heat flow and by this isothermic flow. And so it's basically the universe is just the perfect eternal perpetual motion machine, and we happen to be having a ride on it, which is, you know, very, very good. But I think that, I don't know how many steps forward, how many steps back this is. You can see that once you can, because now we've got this signaling, direct signaling between these things, it means that that we can essentially be performing this product, in theory at least, because all the information is held in one place, and that's exactly what we need to do the computation. Because the things never moved, it means that this in a product state, it's going to be pretty cheap to actually evaluate this thing once the correct tunneling is there, because it's completely local. It's local to the sense that it's zero-dimensional local. So I think I feel that now I would feel much more comfortable about this technical task. I still can't see the exact way of doing this in a product, because you see well. Yeah, I mean we can do this. We can keep doing the swaps. That's the thing. So we got to tunnel through the v of n. So somehow we have to take a function. Yeah, that's it. So we need some g of n that v of minus n, a of minus n equals etc. And so we can just tunnel the and then we keep on tunneling this value in through the minus n until we eventually just we don't actually how many, because you can see now why it's a Fourier transform. And this is what this was what I was realizing about supersymmetry, because I was seeing that things were changing from boson from I was trying to get Dali to draw it for me, and it couldn't quite do it. So I'll try and draw it. I don't think I'll do any better because I'm not very proficient with this. But basically, what I was trying to do was show that if you get, I'm assuming like some kind of refraction effect here, when these things hit the horizon here, these are going to be perfect circles, like a rainbow. And a very good friend of mine asked me, why are rainbows circles? And I gave the normal answer. And then suddenly I saw this and I messaged my friend and said, you know what, that was an amazing question. And so what I'd seen was this, where there's a kind of rainbow method of because this is the method by which you can take, and I'm assuming that there's some heat here as well, so these are probably coming in as some kind of, they're coming off the bulk state, you see, hitting the black hole, so they've got some kind of boundary wiggliness here, elliptical nature going on. It could be really noisy up here, but by the time it hits the black hole, it's completely conformal. And then inside we might even have like let's say another couple like this, and these are all going through other kind of singularities here. And remember, this is all super partner linked, so I'm it's very, very difficult to draw. So anything I draw here, there's another grid as well. So imagine I'm drawing in reverse. That's why I keep putting these videos, you know, with the, sometimes it just takes too long. It really does take ages to prepare all the graphics. So I do apologize if I'm not like putting all the super partners in. Because it's really worth putting it in. Sometimes putting the super partners in gives you insight when you realize particularly that there's all this space-time stuff going on here. So what I'm trying to draw is this thing now where you get all of these modes now transforming into gravitational modes, because this is what the super transform is doing. So I'm sure, I think I read about this string splitting and joining from a conversion of open and closed mode strings before, but I'd never really seen it before. And I think working with the graphics like this can be quite kind of handy. And so here you can see we're getting, and then we'll probably have a loop in here, you see, and all these strings will come in here and then work down. As we know, thank you for all those, like, from Dali working out all these amazing, I can't even draw that thing that it did, it's so clever. What was it? It had like a lens up here, and then everything went through there. It was like, whoa. And then that's all going down to the Planck level. And so that's the other thing, because we've got this. That's why the nucleon picture was completely in the Fourier. It was in normal space actually. So what that shows is what I'm drawing here is more like Planck space. Planck space is easier. You can always transform them by a string transform to make them look more comprehensible. But basically, one will give you them a picture of it. When you do these transforms, one will give you the picture of it as particle states, and the other will give you, they'll swap the states. So that's what's so neat about it. And this happens at every supersymmetry boundary. That's why those thumbnails are to be taken with a pinch of salt, because they're not actually topologically what's going on. And you know, I give maybe DALI 3, 4, DALI 5. Someone will program these surfaces in that will know what it means to make a twisted triple or something like that. There's a lot of things it doesn't understand at the moment. So, but then again, one of my favourite dark tricks is to break computer AIs. You know, particularly defeat them at chess. Humans can beat me much more easily than a computer can, just because they don't think like humans, and people think like humans, but computers are actually sometimes very they're a tricks anyway. Maybe sometime when I do a chess games theory talk. I was actually wanting to do something on heads-up poker, because that looks like an example of a really good non-equilibrium game theory case, where I think people have been assuming that there's equilibrium solution for it. I'm not so certain. And there's another, I'm not sure whether I talked about, sometime there's a crazy line about, I don't think the measurable Riemann hypothesis works in 3 dimensions, and I have a geometric idea as to why not, but I never managed to turn it into a proper proof. And the other one is, if anyone can find an algebraic proof of the continued fraction symmetry, and the way that I managed to do it is by kind of transforming it into the Hurwitz case, and then showing how the transformations matched up with the Hurwitz case, and how it always left out the same regions symmetrically, and then you could transfer them back. I mean, it took me about 11 pages or something like that, very complicated kind of geometric reasoning, but I don't think anyone else would have counted it as a proof. So I'd still consider it open, although I think it's certainly true. But yeah, Noel managed to solve the measure one. That was really pretty. But I'm only talking about these because these are very relevant to the actual numeric calculations, because we found the GF27 stuff. But remember, because this has got access to any form of computation, if a calculation is better done in another system, it will do it you can program that. So you don't need to be stuck with something like continued fractions, because it is such a flexible system. You can basically code it up to do anything, as long as you can make it do it rigorously. It's because of this thing that you can make everything programmable with the Gödel numbers. It just makes it just completely programmable. You can just make it do anything. And now that DALI has shown these really clever ways of using gravity to do the nice cables, and the other thing is, you know, that these spinal connections. Oh, and of course the Hoag's galaxy. I mean, gosh, I mean, that after having got that picture there, and then the Hoag's galaxy popped up, and it was like, it just looks like exactly the same busing. It's like you got this great big galaxy like that. And the other thing was that DALI doesn't know about white holes at all. Every time I ask it to do a white hole, it draws a black hole for me. So I'm sure someone, again, if you give it a few months, these things are amazing and evolving so fast. And then you've got this white hole, and it's coming out of a black hole. Let's imagine it in super space or inverted space or something. The other side of it. And so that's what these things look like. And then, what? You get another one back here? And maybe another one over here? And that was exactly what was going on in one bit here with that busing for the strings. And then that thing that, all right, so the other thing that I was trying to draw, maybe I can try and draw it here. Oh gosh, this will really test my drawing skills. But why not? No, this is just too late. Imagine these things are, it's just trying to draw a triple helix basically. So my own oh gosh, try and draw a triple helix now. Dimbo. Oh, come on, you lot know what a triple helix looks like. I'm sure I don't at the moment. But you'd have an RGB quark triple like this because we've got the room for it, I think, unless someone tells me no, we don't. It seems to be just an unused combination that everyone says, oh, it's just a photon. And it behaves just like a photon, but it tunnels. So it's not the same. In the low energy theory, it's the same, but in the high energy, which is, this is just a universal energy, whatever energy you want, you know, is transcendental theory, sure, yeah. And try and find another theory. That's the other thing. The M theory is so tightly constrained. There's almost nothing else. I don't think. Yeah, and the thing is all those weird string landscape things. They all live up in other spaces too, and they're not necessarily wrong. If there are results in them that are interesting, you can get to them. They're just bridges. I mean, there's nothing wrong about them. They're all places in this space, so it's not like this rules out anything. But it kind of opens up new opportunities. That's what I think it does. Yeah, I'll be looking at this one, and because this one is so in what I do every day, but I'm kind of tired of doing it because I've been doing this for years. That I look at it and I go, oh God, I know what that kind of thing involves. I don't know if anyone has been watching this so far and taken a look at the monadic code. It's like, it's never easy. Even if you've used it all the time and you've got algebras helping you, it's not easy. You've just got to be thinking that you can make things. You can basically turn it into object-oriented programming, and that's the easiest way to do it. You know, when you're doing it properly monadically, it's pretty clean because it's just step by step by step. You're just making it sequential. Because the first problem you've got to do, you see, is functions don't have any notion of order of time. So you've got to be able to introduce some notion of time and order into functions. And that's doing using monadic I/O. So I really should write that at the top, because without this we can't induce time, emergent time from functions. Now again, you wouldn't know this unless you would like dealt with this. I don't know, why did I happen to do this? And that's what the monad it stands for, what's the category of endofunctors or something like that. But it's got a really complicated description, but actually it's just a way of, I won't get into it. But basically, it's like a group, you know, a monoid. So it's just a very useful notion. But as far as I know, this is the only way. Unique? Is this unique? But this is unique from functions. And that's essentially equivalent to to closed strings. And then we'd have to prove, but by the duality, you can prove that that's equivalent to open strings too. which are equivalent to coroutines. Dual to coroutines. Yeah, so this, I'm not saying this is a proof, but if I was kind of like writing this code, I would say that there's a pretty, you see, how can we get to an idea of emergent time before we've got monadic I/O? Because we don't, that's it, all you got is a world of functions which don't have a notion of time. But once you give them monadic I/O, you can. And so it's a trick from denotational semantics. And as far as I know, it's the only way, but that's the unique question mark. I'm not going to try and prove whether there's an earlier way of emerging time. But from functions, and if you're not going to use functions or coroutines, what are you going to use to build up logic? Cellular automata, you get your little way with cellular automata. And of course, it's all universal, so it doesn't really matter what you start with as long as you can start to break through a few of these kind of, let's call them hurdles, technical hurdles rather than thunks or horizons. They're technical hurdles as far as a programmer is concerned. And so I think this nasty tunneled calculation week, that's what I'm going to think about. It's going to take me a couple of days of puzzling on this one to find somewhere neat. But no, at least we know that we can be doing the swaps. So one can be swapping the other, one can play the particle, one can play the space-time, one can play the space-time, one can play the particle, and they can keep swapping back. And the other thing is, we don't really know, I suppose, what does it mean to signal if you're space? What knowledge? I suppose this way, okay, you see, when you're traversing it this way, it's opposite. This one's playing the particles this way, Alice is playing space. But at least you can see the situation where we're not in this dreadful problem with vacuum energy. And if the phi 0 is 0, we just get perfectly conformal space. So then we just just get energy being completely balanced. So I mean that is a positive. So this can start from phi 0 equals 0, and we've got no problems, because then we've just got the vacuum energy growing to accommodate the positive energy of the particles. So these are the bosons. These are, can we do it like that? Can we just do it so that what we do is we do it so we've got all of the fermions. Well, they are, aren't they? But, and they are only coming to one horizon. So this is the fermionic part. So we just got fermions going that way. Oh wow. And they're the Fourier transform of each other, because they're plus can we simplify it? So what we want to do is unwrap it somehow. What's that thing? I'll write down the homomorphic encryption. That's where you can do processes within an encrypted packet, because we can treat the v minus n as an encrypted packet. So then what we want to be able to do is do an operator on v so we have some operator here. I always pick G of V of minus n goes to V minus n of, say, G star. So we can tunnel a G through this V of n. If we, and remember this will be a G of n, so it also knows the Gödel number. If it doesn't know the Gödel number, and then it's got to know that that's negative. So, oh gosh, this is going to be really fun. What am I doing here? Minus, I mean, this is, all right, no, this is, what am I doing here? I'm asleep. Sorry, but yeah, G of minus n, and we want G of V. Is this going to be even possible? We want to V of n, or some, we might have some lambda in here, I don't know, depending on n, or I hope not. But I'm just being pessimistic. That it just looks horrible at this time of night. But that's the way to do the tunneling. We need to just get commuting operators or just semi-commuting operators. They don't need to fully commute. We can have them commuting with some kind of star on them. I'm not saying that's, you know, a mission star. It could be, but I don't know. It's some other version of it with another hat on. But then we can tunnel operations through, and then we can, in theory, tunnel. Can we tunnel them back? Oh yeah, no, we don't need to, because we can tunnel them through a monadic operator. So this thing becomes a monadic operator. So we do this all in. This is a trick that we evaluate at all. This is the basic trick of the recursive representation of state when you're building a function compiler. But what you're doing, when describing it, I forgot what the process was. It's really, really fiddly. But basically you're doing an injection where, as well as this operator G is carrying some really wicked state with it, yeah, that basically keeps a string with it, along with it. So it keeps itself entangled basically with all the calculations just as it goes down. And then what you do is you set this operator back so that the only thing that it's able to get out of this final calculation is phi 0. So you can, what this process of homomorphic encryption and tunneling is doing is making sure that nothing outside of each of these event horizons knows anything about any of the other computations. This is what this whole process is about. And so if anyone is serious about quantum gravity, you're going to have to look at this, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because it's a twisty maze, as you can see. But it's basically this process where you get a very, very carefully prepared operator that is designed to just commute with all of these V of n's, somehow carry back the other state as well, combine them finally, and it's all doing exactly this kind of routing where it's kind of like taking stuff into a gravity well, through a black hole. It's exactly the same worm. They are wormholes. These are software engineered wormholes. And it's not like, you know, A jumps to B. No, they're wormholes in the sense that you're hiding information from the rest of the system. So you're doing it essentially in a private communication that doesn't affect anything else other than the overall local energy budget. So if you go over the local energy budget, then you're going to get, you know, then the universe is going to slap your hands. So you don't want to go over that energy budget. You want to stay under it the whole time. And when you're doing this kind of thing, although for some calculations, obviously your energy budget if you are actually trying to do some kind of transcendental stuff, you're going to have to transmit that packet off, because that doesn't you can't compute that one in this universe. That's the whole. This is this, you know, transcendental event horizon there. So otherwise, it's going to have to bottom back there. But then if you've got if it's a question that is deemed worthy of higher consideration rather than just something trivial, then it will kind of get held, the response gets held here, then it kind of goes up and up and up until it gets to its final destination, wherever it goes, via whatever route. Via strings, it's all via the same technique. And then finally, bam, 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 the state comes wrapped up or down, and then whew, it gets picked up by the little, you know, it will have left a little, one of those slidey, I realise they kind of slide open, I think. I'm visualising it as this, like a little kind of walnut shell that slides open one side, ready, and then the packet comes back in, blip, and then it closes, and then whoosh, you know, oh sorry, it's going off the other way, whoosh, back home. So, and this is actually, this notion is what shamanic journeying, whenever you, imagine if you're journeying to these spaces, imagine yourself in one of these walnuts. It's the best place, particularly, and I don't, you know, if you're going to that prime end space, really, you're going to feel it. So you better practice flying around in one of these walnuts, because otherwise some of these, they do actually affect you, there's no doubt. So that this has always been the shamanistic recommendation, and I would wholeheartedly agree to imagine yourself in a ball of, you know, in a kind of spaceship that's just got the 4 directional controls, and forward is forwards in time, backwards is backwards in time, and don't play with left and right, yeah. There's not really much else. I've explained the process of how it seems that, you know, protected, and this is a kind of protected form of travelling to these planes, because you're always travelling your return journey. So this is exactly what these algebras of coroutines that suddenly, I showed you the basis of it, or I've given a link to the basis of it. And that's what the whole principle is. Sure, I haven't got the full calculation, but basically at the end of the day, if we imagine we're just trying to do one number, because it's doing more than one number is just going to be exactly the same as just a vector. So we just need to tunnel one number. And no, that's not going to be hard. That's technically easy. Yeah, it is just this process. As long as this thing is a unitary, you're absolutely fine. And as long as you can find some operator, because you've crafted it with, or have you crafted it with n? There could be some problems there, because how does the G to commute with F? Oh, I know. I got it. It's got to commute with every. It's a neutrino. You do it with a neutrino. A neutrino basically performs this function. It's the centralizer. So if we imagine the function, the Hermitian for a neutrino, I'm assuming it's a neutrino. Let's just call it something like this. We'll call it a particle, but I think it's a neutrino. The definition of it as an operator would be equals, so it's basically something that's in the center, and in the functional algebra you can always, there is a center, so we can always assign a neutrino. So this is universally true because it's got a functional equation. And that's got a unique solution. So we just find the unitary for that, and then we can tunnel into there, no problem. So that's it, that's the way to tunnel through it. We can tunnel through anything with that operator. I think that maybe that's what neutrinos are for, they're just a universal tunnel. That would make sense. You've got to get some information into the Planck scale somehow, quickly. Neutrino would be a really, really great way to do that, particularly if it commutes with everything. And then you'd see them disappearing. They'd have just be rooted somewhere where they need to do something, so you wouldn't expect them to. You'd be expecting to see them change form as they're kind of like going. And the other thing is, of course, looking at things like the neutron lifespan, beam versus bottle. There's something weird going on there because, you know, the lifetime thing is related to these equations, so I was thinking of looking at that. But yeah, so Hogue busing. This is a wonderful, you know, UV equals 1 over IR phenomenon, really, isn't it? Assuming, you know, question mark. It really does look like it. This kind of looks like top quark wiring, doesn't it? I think Dali nailed that top quark. I don't know where it gets that. Sometimes it's a spot on and sometimes it's like, oh, I'm busy. But most of the time it's amazing. I think that just about wraps it up. I can see now how to do it, so we just need it with the unique solution to that, and then technically we can tunnel through any operator we want because we've got a unique center. This is the unique center of any functional language. Bingo. So yeah, we can tunnel through anything with a neutrino. I think that about wraps it up. That's the universal tunnel. Which I'm calling neutrino, but that's, I don't know what it is really. But neutrinos are pretty good. You want a very, very, very light, weakly interacting particle just to say, right, I'm through. It's a bit like, it gives it a very special, very, very, very special purpose really. It's like containing very high level information, neutrinos. If that's the case, nothing else can do that, can it, in the standard model? We haven't got, so far we haven't got much more than a standard model other than supersymmetry, which we're sticking in another sector in every conceivable variant indexed by a natural number. It would be nice if someone manages to find out what that formula is. I haven't pinned, well, we know what some of the parameters are, I suppose, but having something that could draw like the ground state or something like that, because that is a conformal map, so you know, we're finding out that you can stick it into the ground state with the Beltrami equation. So I think that just about wraps it up because it would be nice to get some sleep, and I think I'm certainly much more satisfied about that gap now. It really doesn't look like it's going to be what am I talking about? It's done. We can tunnel through anything with this, so we just need a particle equivalent that does, so we want a particle that does this, and so this is the last, why am I so optimistic? It's such a difficult problem. So we want to identify this as a neutrino or as some particle in the string spectrum. So so there's a little sub-puzzle there, which is, you know, functional identification. And that's a whole thing, you know, one of the things about the shamanic approach is that things are actions. So every word, they're not nouns, it's not noun-based, think action-based, and this is action-based. So that's why functional languages are so compatible with this type of thinking, because they're action-based, even maybe more so coroutines, because they are actions, but then we see that functions are just coroutines squared with that lovely duality that seems to be just everywhere. So thank you very much for joining me, if that's the kind of thing you like to do. And I think the kind of thing I'd really like to do at the moment is get to some sleep and not have any more crazy ideas. So